This is Lansdowne Roar, the voice of the fans. Coming up, Dunphy blasts Keane, calling him a poor analyst. Also, the legendary pundit turns into James McLean on RTE. And just how bad was preparation for Euro 2012? This is Lansdowne Roar. David Dunn here, joined by Martin Prendergast. And as always, if you like what you see, love what you hear, hit that subscribe button, scan that QR code, and head over to Facebook, Instagram, and our Twitter. And if you want an opinion, head over to lansdowneroar.ie. Martin, how are you doing on this lovely day?
Yeah, good, Dave. Yeah, looking forward to covering a bit of kind of controversy a little bit with Dunphy calling out Keane. You know, we've had them two very mixed before, and this is it.
Yeah, I'd say you were devastated. Actually, once I saw it, I sent it straight over to you and went, "Have some of that." Speaking of calling out, Martin, I'm going to call you out for calling me out on the pronunciation of
this is going to be good.
of the legendary RTE commentator. How do you say it?
What's that?
How do you say his name?
Michael Omerhertug. There you go.
Enough said.
There you go.
Enough said. Anyway, yes, we are here to discuss Eamon Dunphy calling out your boy, your hero, your guiding light. Anytime he does anything in the media, all I get is love Roy. I love him.
Yeah, but that is obviously just to kind of rattle you, Dave.
Well, it clearly hasn't worked, man.
Oh, I know, but yeah, just anything. It is like we have our own. It's like our own little Twitter feed between us. I'm just send you little clips about Roy Keane or just so pro Roy.
No.
But yeah,
very much so. Well,
I don't know. Just to quickly jump in there, did you see they're doing the overlap on ITV, a special episode, which is going to be quite good. Getting it bigger, yeah. The overlap is doing. I think it's either tonight or tomorrow. I think. I know we're early morning here today, but I'll have to look it up. But yeah, it's they're doing an overlap, and that's got to get a bigger audience as well. So it's quite clever. I mean, Gary Neville's behind that, isn't he? He's very shrewd.
Sort of. How are you getting away with that? Like, if it's done with Sky,
it's probably whoever the kind of production team is, I suppose. And again, Sky wouldn't probably give a shite because it's going to be bringing people to it on its normal platform. So
I suppose not really Sky is. It's just sponsored by Sky Bet. It's not actually done for Sky. It's a YouTube channel. But anyway, no, I look forward to. I did enjoy the last one with Roy. You know that we did talk about, but
I didn't enjoy Roy in the Arsenal shirt though. Sorry, I didn't enjoy that.
Yeah, I saw that.
Yeah, well, not happy.
Could have been.
That.
Yeah,
not happy with
what
that.
a crap retro version of that shirt that was, by the way. But anyway, what I really did enjoy was there they are there. What I really enjoyed was reading Eamon Dunphy's piece on Roy Keane, pulling at your heartstrings here, Martin. And funny enough, I just happened to have the piece right in front of me. So basically what it was is that Keane came out and he smashed Declan Rice on ITV. This is what he had to say about Declan Rice. I think it was after the Slovenia game. The modern player seems to be a bit more delicate to criticism. I know there's more of it because of social media particularly, but again, these players, I judge players by actions. Declan Rice is talking about show some love. Listen, come on, it's serious stuff. This is football stuff. People have made huge sacrifices to travel. You get to love. So ironic when you hear Roy Keane talking about fans traveling to tournaments. But anyway, you get the love back when you perform. Yet again, more irony. We all played at a decent level, and when things are going great, people are patting you on the back. But the reality is, if you're not performing, you get criticised. Just before I read out Dunphy's retort to that, did you think his comments were fair? Of course you did. Bet you were punching the air, weren't you? Have some of that, Declan.
Well, this is on the back of the England team being unloved and not appreciated, and even Gareth Southgate's come back with it's kind of taking the pressure off the players. He's saying, I know that it's me now. I mean, it's quite laughable, isn't it? I mean, they used to sing that Atomic Kitten song, Southgate, you're the one, and all that stuff. No one's singing that anymore. They're proper turned England fans, but I mean, they're still in with a great opportunity to win this, and they're in the best side of the draw as well. I mean, I looked at that a little bit more closely after the last show and stuff. I mean, they've They'll basically get through Slovakia, you would think, and then it's probably Italy or the Netherlands, I think, at that side of the draw. And, like, they're a semi-final, and then you just don't know what's going to happen. It's, you know, a great opportunity. But, you know, look, I do understand Roy calling them out because, you know, they're all, every one of their press conferences now is like, oh, we don't feel loved and you're all having a go at us and stuff. And we've got some delicate flowers in our squad. I
But
mean, Roy,
they
that situation is.
But just on that, like, I mean, this is very new for these players in an England shirt, because that was one of the things that Gareth Southgate did, wasn't it? He galvanised the squad where, you know, the players used to be so guarded against the media for obvious reasons and with good reason, to be fair. And then all of a sudden it's like, no. Let's sit down with the media. Let's make the media our friends. And now this is the first tournament, and it worked, by the way. Now this is the first tournament where they've absolutely turned on the players, and they're going, whoa. So to be fair to, look, I'm not all mollycoddling younger players and the new generation, because I do think they have it far too easy, and you don't know they're born, some of them. But, you know, to be fair to them, they're not used to this level of criticism, where maybe your Gerrards and your Ashley Coles and your Beckhams and all that. I mean, look what happened to Beckham, effigies and all that kind of thing after France '98. So to be fair, they're not used to this, are they?
No, and that sets the tone. I mean, you know, Roy was so high level and demanding when he was in Irish camps, and any Irish player who plays with Roy says he kind of raised the bar with them. You know, he made them play better because you wanted to impress him, and that's kind of it. And you know, it is a bit kind of managed, kind of social media and media coverage of this. You know, England have their own in-house Lions Den or something. It's some show they do where the players are doing a little bit of you know, just pissing around, playing pool and stuff like that, and chatting with some guy, and that's all output, and it goes on Sky, and it's all kind of all nice and gentle. But you know, I don't know, they just seem a little bit. It's generational, I suppose. You know, I was shocked the other day that one of the things I watched it was on Sky Sports News or whatever, and it showed this clip of this Lions Den. I think it's that. I don't even really gauge too much interest in it, but you know, Jude Bellingham can't play pool. What's going on there? He couldn't play pool. Like that's what's going on. That really insulted me. You know, I know what the Irish lads are out in camp when they come in. They have table tennis, pool, darts, everything now, don't they? But how that's just a generational thing. I think he probably better off being not dragged up in a pub. There you go.
With red lemonade and a packet of potato or King crisps. It was always King that got served at the pubs back in Ireland. Speaking, do you not think though it's a bit ridiculous? And we're going to move on to Duffy's point. It's a bit ridiculous that Roy Keane's calling out England players and saying fans have made sacrifices to go over to you watch when this is the guy that walked out in the Ireland team in Saipan. Like, I'm sorry, but like that sort of does seem a bit like both sides of his mouth,
isn't it? Yeah, but you
like,
you're holding him to account on that kind of stuff. I mean, that's like
he holds people to account, Martin.
No, yeah, but when we look back at
he was going on about Fergie.
Yeah, but
he was on about Fergie.
I think you have to look at the Tommy Gorman interview as well with him, where he's saying, you know, don't you feel sorry for, back in 2002, where don't you feel sorry for kids who don't want to play soccer anymore or football anymore, and they you know, they feel all depressed about going to school and all this kind of stuff. And he said it will pass, and that's it. It's life, isn't it? You just get on with it, Dave.
Well, it hasn't passed. And if you ever see any sort of post about Roy Keane or anything about that, or Mick, it's boom, 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 straight away. Yeah. Mick's horrible. Roy walked out. He's a traitor. Like, it hasn't passed, and that was the moment that actually split Irish football. It's never actually come back since then. There's always been this massive divide. Irish football used to always be quite well joined, and after that, for me anyway, that completely divided football. I just find it funny. I just find it really, the way he goes on about it, like, yeah, you know, they've all travelled over there. Well, the Irish fans went over to travel to see him in Korea and Japan, and he's calling these guys out. So he needs to be called out, and that's why the Roar faithful tune in to every episode, because they know we don't do nonsense. Don't do any of your nonsense, Prendergast. That's for sure.
I would just like to point out that I didn't actually answer your question.
You can now. Do you not think it's ridiculous?
I kind of get it, yeah, but look, it is divisive, as you said. You know, and Roy's just going to be sound bites, and he's going to get dragged into it. It's like Mick does that as well. He doesn't get drawn. It calls people dick of the day, doesn't he? Whoever brings it up, you've got to move on. It will pass.
I have seen him do that actually. Yeah. Okay. Well, we're going to move on to Dunphy's response to that. He wrote an article in the Irish Daily Star, but he also which also appears in the mirror sometimes. I don't know why that's the. Do you know why that's the case? Because
No,
you
it's
see,
just rent a quote, isn't it? You can get it's a soundbite and Roy Keane, so it's got to be something to read.
no, but like what I mean is Dunphy's articles appear in the Daily Mirror on the website, like they actually appear as by Eamon Dunphy. Like it's two separate, like it's the same article just in two different publications. That must be obviously an agreement he has. Anyway, going back to Dunphy's response. Fear is not a word you'd associate with Roy Keane. By the way, this is after he's turned around and he was actually he was talking about some pundits that he likes. He thinks the best pundit, both sides of the Irish Sea, is Diddy Hamann. He says he can't believe that English is a second language, although he is pretty much adopted Irishman now at this stage, Diddy Hamann, but just thought I'd put it out there. Fear is not a word you'd associate with Roy Keane. If anything, he is box office attraction with his willingness to lash into anybody. While that's all well and good, the fact remains that Keane is a poor analyst, Martin, a poor analyst. Keane is a poor analyst. Just want to make sure you got that. His knowledge of the game is thin. Very thin, Martin. His knowledge of the game is very thin. Not my words, Eamon Dunphy's words. As a player, it wasn't. He could read a game brilliantly and had the temperament, the skill, and the intelligence to grasp what was required to win. Now, in his second career in a television studio, he'll slag off anyone. You might think, well, that's great, except his credibility can be questioned by some of his statements. The most ridiculous of those was his declaration that Erling Haaland, aside from his goal scoring, was lower league in terms of play outside of the penalty area. That singular piece of analysis, easy for me to read, was awful, misleading, and deeply unfair, and makes you wonder whether old prejudices die hard. Keane, remember, had issues with Haaland's father, a journeyman player at Man City and Leeds, who he committed a desperate foul on in 2001, and did not end Haaland's career, by the way. Dunphy's not writing that. I'm saying that he didn't end his career. Just want to, as much as I don't really like, as Roy Keane annoys me, I like to get to the facts. He didn't, because he played a few days later and it was an injury on his other knee. Anyway, so does that old grudge colour Keane's view on Haaland Jr.? It's a question we are entitled to ask, just as we wonder whether his criticism of Declan Rice is a case of hell hath no fury, like an assistant manager scorned. Rice, remember, played under Keane and Martin O'Neill for Ireland before defecting to England. It was their own fault he switched allegiance. They could easily have kept Rice in a competitive game for Ireland had they had the foresight to do so. Instead, they dithered. Rice disappeared. Now Keane delivers scathing assessments of him, while this gives off the impression he's a straight shooting pundit. I can't find any fault with what Dunphy, and I'm not saying that just to wind you up. I actually can't find any fault as to what Dunphy has said there. We've seen Roy Keane, utterly ridiculous to say that the best manager he ever played under was Brian Clough, because obviously he's fallen out with Ferguson, who he just called, he doesn't call Alex, he calls Ferguson. The whole thing with Haaland's dad. Dunphy's absolutely on the money here, isn't he?
Oh, probably a little bit of a different take to you. I mean, this is just they've not got a great relationship as they had before. You got to remember, like I know he kind of wrote the book, didn't he, for Roy, the first autobiography, and it got Roy into trouble as well. So let's not forget that because that went into
by telling the truth.
Yeah, but it went into a court case, didn't it? And then and Dunphy, it was kind of thing of his interpretation of what Roy had said, about where he smashed him and all this kind of stuff. And there you go. Don't ever stand over me again. That famous quote. But it cost Roy money, and they obviously have fallen out since. And, I remember Roy, the picture you showed there, that was from the ill-fated Eamon Dunphy show, wasn't it?
Yeah, and TV3, yeah.
The show for a while. He is a rent-a-quote, though, isn't he, Dunphy? Fantastic journalist back in the day. A great author as well. Really.
Yeah, but he's got a point, though, Martin.
No, he has got a point on it, but I think it just shows that it's a bit petty, though, isn't it? It's going on about Roy as with the Haaland stuff, and I think as an analyst, I don't have a problem with Roy Keane. I think sometimes, I think when you look at the ITV coverage which he's on at the moment, and he's saying these points, it's not analysed like Sky is, right? They don't have enough time to do that. To be honest, sometimes they pick out the main points, and they're obviously appealing to the kind of the common public, basically, who don't need it all broken down technically. So, actually, on the Haaland thing, I do agree with Keane on that. I don't think his building up play is good enough, but his goal scoring record is different. So I think I don't really get that point with
I
Dunphy.
agree. I agree with that. Yes, it is outside the box play isn't great, but he is there to score goals, and he's how it will develop. But the fact I think what Dunphy's trying to say is, or I take from it, is that he went in so hard on him, is because the whole thing with his dad.
Yeah, but you could say as well. Yeah, but Dunphy's doing this article now, putting Keane in it, Haaland in it, and Martin O'Neill, and not capping Rice. That's all diggy as well, and that's just to get publicity for his article as well. It's the same.
But it's true. But it is true.
Well, it is. And I mean, when we hear Martin O'Neill ever talk, when he's on Jordan and White and things, he's always trying to justify his knee that, oh, well, I couldn't do this and stuff. That's just football, but it's a little bit boring now, isn't it? Just the same. We've heard it all before.
No, we have, but I do think he has a point about Keane. Keane is just around the quote. Look, I know Dunphy was the ultimate rent a quote. Fantastic journalist in the day, and then he realised he could actually get further by being a bit more outright. Like people probably think that Dunphy, they'll obviously we shared a clip on the page there a while ago about his rant at halftime, the 0-0 with Egypt. Or sorry, it was a halftime rant, where he said it was a shame for Irish football. People said, oh, he said he was ashamed to be Irish. He was right. He just, he obviously he lost the head a bit in telly, and that was unheard of back in 1990. Like to throw the pen across the table and to say anything publicly bad about Jack Charlton at the time. But he was right. The points he made were sound. He was pointing out the space. Why aren't the players push? There's Paul McGrath. He's on the ball, but like there's no one around. That kind of thing. So yeah, he is around the quote, but his analysis was, I thought for most it was on the money. And if he got something wrong, he'd always come out and say like Ronaldo's a cod. But he came out and said that he was wrong. Front page of the Irish Daily Star was over here. You probably didn't see it. Not having a go.
No.
Over in England.
Oh, no, I do remember that.
I got it wrong about Ronaldo.
Yeah.
I just think with Keane though, he does. Of course he holds a grudge. It'd be ridiculous to suggest he doesn't. And I just think, a lot of it is just like. To the common person in the pub, like listen to Keane and go, "You tell him, Roy." It's just a lot of that, and I think a lot of
they don't disagree. ITV don't really. I've been watching quite a bit of the Euros now, and I would watch ITV when Roy's on it as well, and Gary Neville. I find they're quite good. Ian Wright, Postecoglou's absolutely brilliant. Like he will disagree with a pundit in there and go, actually, I don't see it like that, and because it is a little bit. Dare I say it? That they're very safe and they'll give the kind of common answer. Like, people, like everyone's slagging off, for example, Foden's performance. It's easy just as a pundit to pick on that and go, yeah, Foden's not as good as he is in Man City, and yeah, maybe they should drop him and things like that. Or Trent, yeah, let's all talk about that. Whereas, you've got to say why is he struggling? Like, analyze it properly. That I do agree with Dunphy like that. Analyze it. What is he struggling with? You played in midfield, Roy. What is he not doing? Like he did say, didn't he? Declan Rice is basically babysitting Trent, and that's a criticism of Southgate as well, who was also, let's not forget, he was in the studio not so long ago, obviously before the England job, but he used to be in there with Roy and things with ITV on the Champions League nights. I'd like to see that kind of level of analysis, but I think they're so top heavy with pundits in that studio ITV. Like they normally have 4, right? They have Roy, Ian Wright, Gary Neville, and then they'll have maybe Ange, or they have like the token woman in there, don't they? Because they have to do that often on ITV. Karen Carney's quite good, I think, at it. Or then they have someone pitch side. It is just very woke, kind of their thing. And Roy does have to kind of bring, I think, a little bit that spark of, something a little bit kind of hinting at controversy or digging out someone, and then they can go, oh, that's actually brilliant what Roy just said there. But I think that's what you got to expect. Whereas I think Dunphy back in the day with Brady and Giles, it was a little bit more, they said what they wanted. They would disagree with each other, and it wasn't as safe.
No, it's fantastic.
They would just go for each other, and that's what everyone loves and misses.
And I do appreciate, and Graham Souness touched on this when he was on off the ball a while ago. I think it was last year, was it? And he said, look, Sky can't go in with the welly. ITV can't really go in with the welly because they've got to send a reporter into the dressing room. They got to work with Sky. Where RTE, they can launch grenades over because they're on the other side of the Irish Sea. And back in the day, especially when Souness started, when, maybe towards the end, because we're that's about nearly 20 years ago actually,
Yeah.
when he started 2006 World Cup. You didn't really have social media back then, and you couldn't really, he could say what he wanted, and it never really got back. Now it does, obviously, like it's global, so even RTE now have to be careful with some of their pundits. So maybe they are a product of the time. But yeah, with Roy, I just think it's become very pantomime. Like it's become that's his job, and now you see all the memes. Ice cream man selling ice cream to kids. He's not, that's his job, and it's just like Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
I think it's become tiresome. I don't mind someone putting the welly into somebody as long as they're funny about it. And to be fair, Roy he's a very funny guy, actually, to be fair. He does make me laugh on the, his very, very witty put downs and his self deprecation. But yeah, I'd like to see, if he's going to do it in the studio, like I'd like to just see a little bit more meat on the bone. Speaking of meat on the bone, there he is, James McClean. James McLean, who is a new addition to the RT panel, shall we say, and obviously he hit the ground running, didn't he, during his analysis for the Ireland-Portugal game where we lost 3-0. But Dunphy doesn't hold back on him either. Now, he says about Rice, about what McLean said about Rice, saying that he was overrated or he wasn't world class. So this is what Dunphy had to say on that. Rice is entitled to ask whether he's also a grudge holder. The Arsenal England midfielder can ask the same question of James McLean. Sorry, that was just the end of the Roy Keane thing. But yeah, he can also ask if James McLean is a grudge holder. I've seen McLean a few times in RTE. Apparently, he's considered a find. Well, whenever he appears on the screen, I switch channel because he can't express himself. He's just a mouth, and beyond the noise, there is no humour. From Keane, from McLean, you get rants. That wasn't the case with John Lima, right? Don't know about that. Occasionally, I'd have a go. Cristiano Ronaldo and Jack Charlton bearing the brunt of my criticism over a 40-year career. Criticised heavily for my assessment of Charlton's tactics, I stood my ground. And viewers respected me for that. On Ronaldo, I was wrong. But again, viewers proved to be forgiving because they could see I was being honest. I was paid to express my views on television for 4 decades. That wouldn't have happened if I hadn't had good bosses who believed in me or audiences who felt entertained and informed. Jaws educated viewers in the game's nuances and tactical trends. Neither Keane nor McLean do that because they don't have the verbal skills to do so. Each man is addicted to stating the bleeding obvious. Yet again, on the money from Amo, I think.
Yeah, I think with McLean, though, I mean, look, we knew the controversy that he was going to come out with, obviously, the Kenny stuff. That kind of got him a little bit of coverage. Also talking about John O'Shea and the farcical situation with the manager. So that was a great sound bites early on, got him a lot of attention. I haven't seen enough of him really with substance. And I don't begrudge any kind of former player trying to get into the media kind of career, basically. And I think we will see him again on he needs a bit of training with it and stuff. I think, some of our pundits in Ireland, they do struggle a little bit. Damien Delaney, it's very hard to be consistent in your views. And like they, and that's something I think Eamon Dunphy acknowledges there. Over 40 years, you do get things wrong. I'm always amazed at TalkSport how certain, presenters on that can have an opinion and they've got to stay consistent with it. And in a way, they kind of create their own kind of brand that I'm going to just I'm going to be so fixated with this opinion that even if I don't really believe it, I've got to just keep going with it because it's going to bring in the kind of rows and the controversy.
I think they prostituted.
They definitely have TalkSport. I mean, that's it. And I mean, again, look, that's one of the reasons why we do the show here, Dave. Like we give a voice to the Irish fans when we do our live shows from the games and your pre-match coverage and post-match, because we want people to have an outlet that they're not going to be, restrained on within certain constraints, of course. But we want honest opinion on it, and we give our opinions. Now we've flipped and flopped as you do about the Irish manager kind of thing, because it's what you want to see, and we're fans at the end of the day. So, and you're also swayed by obviously fellow fans' opinions and what you see. So, I think the punditry that we have in Ireland's okay. I don't really agree with Dunphy on Herman. He's okay. Shay Giffen's pretty safe, really. Noel Hunt. I mean, I like sometimes this generation. I think this generation coming through, though, I like sometimes we get the insight into kind of the recent past. You know what I mean? We kind of get snippets of this actually happened in camp, and that's what I found very refreshing with McLean. He was letting us kind of have a little kind of look into the Kenny kind of era and how it all was recently. So I do want to see kind of recently retired, put that in explanation marks to James McClean, but recently retired players are giving us some insight. I think that's important.
Yeah,
that
look,
we do have that.
it has to move on. Like as much as I love Dunphy. Sorry if you can hear noise in the background. That is my rabbit. Can you hear that in the background, Martin?
Yes, I can. Yeah.
Right. Just give me a second.
No, don't worry. Come on, she's fine.
Is she?
Yeah.
She's chewing on her. She's got like a little holiday home. She's got like a little
Yeah,
box.
you get football on this podcast, and you also get rabbits.
Rabbits. Rabbit. That was a Chaz and Dave song, wasn't it? Yeah, look, I mean, Dunphy now is a 40-year career. Like he's got his own podcast. So he couldn't be on the telly now. He's way past it.
And the podcast is difficult to listen to as well. Sounds, I'll be honest, very, very old, doddery a little bit, and that's. But respecting what he's done over the years, it's worth a listen.
It's very bad, especially with Johnny Giles like ringing up, and it is like two lads sitting down the pub, and it's very difficult to listen to. Probably not as difficult as listen to this rabbit next to me. But what I would say also, about newer players coming in and giving you like a different insight, because obviously the game has changed. But with McLean, I find with his analysis, I do find it like I find the modern day pundit now, especially in the UK. See, when Dunphy did it was kind of organic in Ireland, and soon as it was organic, he would just come out and say it and was his opinion. And he got it wrong. But now in England, they've sort of cotton onto this. And it's just very cheap. It's just very clickbaity. Look, we're all guilty of doing a bit of clickbaity, but like Jason Cundy, where's France and where's all those Liverpool fans, when somebody loses. And he's just doing it to get a reaction. Yeah. It was a middle of the road journeyman player like Jason Cundy, and he's calling out, and he used to be on Sky Sports as well. Then he used to do your live at Sky Sports, and he's just on there winding people up with is it Jamie O'Hara? Is it? He sits
Jamie
there,
O'Hara, sports. Yeah.
And I was like, that's just very cheap. It's they've kind of prostituted the pundit out a little bit, like prostitute yourself, go out there, wind people up, and somebody will bite, and it'll be a great entertainment. It's not really, because it's obvious, because it's obvious what you're doing. It's a bit, I don't really like it. In terms of James McLean, I just find his analysis to be quite just basic. If you pull someone in off the street, like, oh, England fans are very arrogant, because that's kind of what I've been led to believe. Oh, England think it's coming home, and it's just very rudimentary analysis, basic analysis. There's no meat in the bone there. There's no kind of in-depth thought. It's just, oh, I'm gonna lay the boot into England fans because I'm on Irish television. Like, that's what I'm gonna do. You know what I mean? Like, it doesn't seem to me like there's any, like, why do you think England fans are arrogant? Now, he's lived in England. He lives in Wales at the moment, but he's lived in England for a number of years. I've lived in England probably for the same length of time, or maybe not quite as long as McLean. I don't find England fans arrogant. Where are you getting that from? So I don't know. I'm going off on a rant there a little bit, but that's the state of punditry in 2024, Martin.
That's it.
There you go. Speaking of which, McLean and Doyle did open up. This was talked about, and I think it is quite important that we do talk about this, but it's about Euro 2012. And there's a little picture of the lads there after getting God knows which hiding that was. I think that was the Croatia game, was it? It's the only one we wore. I think it was the only one we wore green in. But the lads did open up, didn't they, in RT, about their time at the Euros in Poland, I think they stayed in. Yeah. And this is what McLean had to say in this. Now, this is the sort of stuff I like to hear, as you touched on earlier on. James McLean says about the tournament, he says, I was there for the experience. I wasn't going to play. Obviously, being young and naive, I thought, I'm not wasting any of my energy. I'll have a game of beach volleyball. That wasn't a Euros where things were done properly, done the right way for a major tournament. It was a bit of a free-for-all, to say the least. It was one big party and things weren't done properly with the family hotel being about 100 yards from the team hotel. There was no one keeping tabs on us, no way to behave. obviously looking back now, we as players, we have to take responsibility. When you're sneaking out and you've got a bit of free time, you're walking down the street and you see the CEO, John Delaney, of the FAI up at a table with your own eyes, it doesn't exactly set a good example. You know you're doing wrong by sneaking out for a couple of hours, and then you're seeing that. I basically stayed next door with my friends and family, was basically showing up for the set time for training and for lunch and dinner. In between that, no one kept tabs on you. At the time, my roommate was Paul Green. I'm not sure he saw me except on the beach. We'll get to Kevin Doyle, what he had to say about that. But, people always forget, don't they, about... And I think he forgets James McLean as well, because he mentioned it in an argument he made about playing boring football. Like, I've played in 2 Euros. Well, no, he's played 1 Euro because he didn't play Euro 2012, did he? He was told that you're along for the experience, you won't be playing.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I think it was Sopot, I think, is where they might have been playing.
Yeah.
Kind of the North Island. And, we... So, excuse me, we took the opportunity to go up to kind of see where, to spot players, basically, and think, that'd be nice. It was a beach area, and let's go up there and see what the crack is around the team hotel. Not thinking for 1 minute you kind of get near it and around it, but I was amazed. You could walk straight into the team hotel. The bar was like absolutely packed throughout the day, and really it was Irish fans waiting for the lift to open and see if any player would come out or dare to come out, and that did impact on the players of being able to kind of socialize and be around the hotel without being kind of, hammered by the fans, basically, in a positive way, because the results, all right, it didn't go well, but it wasn't at that stage that it was all gone wrong. But it was like, people wanted to have photos with them and stuff. You were seeing a lot of that happen. Famously, I've heard stories as well, John Delaney coming down and, buying a drink for everybody or whatever. That was just the time it was. I mean, we met Claudine Keane out on the street there, walk along the kind of promenade one day. And yeah, it was just a kind of joyous occasion at the Euros. I think it had gone wrong then, obviously, from a football point of view under Trapattoni, that, we missed out on the World Cup 2010 in the controversial circumstances. We got a bit of a pass, didn't we, that qualifying for 2012. We got a very soft playoff, didn't we? And got there, but I think it had gone then. We were not really expecting to compete. Really incredibly tough group to be in.
No, I mean, everything.
And like again, the lads just weren't happy. Yeah, that was it.
The fact that the manager turned around and said to James McLean, he was actually doing well at Stoke at the time, like, you're not going to be playing in this tournament, which is utterly ridiculous, because how could he do any worse than what we had? But that was sort of the obscenity almost of the preparation. But it wasn't just McLean who said, had his thoughts on that. It was also Kevin Doyle. Doyle said, we were in Sopot, as you say, in a hotel in the town centre. For anyone going supporting, like my brother, his friends, and all the lads on tour, for everyone from Ireland who went out, it was brilliant. Full access to the hotel and the town centre. Fortunately for us, we were in jail there. You're a team. You have a floor of the hotel to yourself, but you're together for weeks on end. You want to get out. You couldn't go to the lobby for a coffee. You couldn't go out for a walk. You couldn't go out on your balcony. People were singing, dancing, cheering all night long, and you couldn't get to sleep. It's not an excuse, but it wasn't great preparation all the same. I think at the time, the thinking was to go on what England had done. They had said they were bored when he stayed out in the countryside. They wanted to go to a town where they could go for a walk around the streets or whatever. I think that was the FAI's thinking, that we'd be in town and it would be grand. We'd be able to go and have a coffee with family. It turned out that half of Ireland was in the same town and they were having a great time, which is brilliant for my brother and friends and family and anyone else who went out. But for players being cooped up together for weeks on end leading up to this, you just need to have space from your own teammates. Never mind anything else. Just like, I mean, we had the group of death, didn't we? We had Spain, Italy, and Croatia. But when you have that, you need to have everything on point, Yeah. And it just, the whole thing was just a complete mess. But yeah.
I remember it though quite vividly, and I know I even I heard Stephen Hunt has said as well. He was absolutely disgusted. He didn't get a minute, did he? And he was, that was just the end of it, really, of that time under Trapattoni.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, it's one thing, like when you meet up sporadically with a manager, but when you've got to actually spend time, like a month together, as we saw with your mate Keane in 2002. It's true though, isn't it? It's like, yeah, I could put up with you for a week, but a month?
Yeah.
And you know, and it's actually longer. It depends how deep you go in the tournament as well, because it's probably like 2-3 weeks you're together, aren't you, before the actual tournament starts on the other side of the world. But yeah, just shocking stuff really. That was 10 years after Saipan, and he still hadn't learned.
No,
and you know, and there's Delaney coming in and saying, "Oh yeah, you know, we learned from Saipan, the Genesis report, so you hadn't learned a damn thing."
No,
Anyway.
and that is going to be something important. Like, you know, I'm a confident man, as you know, Dave. And once we qualify for a tournament again, which will happen surely, but they've got to be very careful about that. They've got to get that right, that mix and balance, and you know how squads are. I mean, it was actually, you know, I think I've said before. I think it was Alonso I met walking along the street, you know, just with headphones on. You know, you've got to give players privacy and stuff, but they need that little breakout time just to have their own thoughts and get back in the real world and just chill out. And we didn't give Irish players that, but that wasn't kind of Irish fans' fault. It was more that, you know, the circumstances of where they put them and what the players wanted as well, I suppose. So, yeah, we've got to just think of that in future. I think that's something whoever is in charge then, whoever's our interim, still then.
20 years time.
Yeah, but you know, you've got to be careful and wary of that kind of situation.
Absolutely. Right. So just before we go, Martin, you want to remind the Roar faithful they have a final chance to win some Wolftown tickets?
That's it. Yep. The Wolftown's legendary Irish band. They're playing in Finsbury Park in London on Friday the 5th of July, and we've got 2 tickets to give away. So if you'd like to be able a chance of winning those, the competition ends actually on the 29th, so that's tomorrow. We will be announcing the winner in the afternoon. So yeah, two tickets for the Wolftown's gig, their final ever one in London. And you just have to follow us on our social media platforms, share and comment under the poster where we've spoken about the tickets being available, to say who you would bring along, and we will bring we'll give you the tickets. So that's thanks to our friends at Festival Republic. There you go.
See, doesn't matter what the event, Martin has the tickets. Right, we're going to leave it there. Martin, thank you very much as always, and thank you at home for listening and tuning in. We really do appreciate it. If you like what you see and you love what you hear, please scan that QR code. Head over to our Facebook, Instagram, and our Twitter. Give the YouTube a cheeky subscribe. And also, if you want an opinion, head over to lansdowneroar.ie. I'm David Dunn. He's Martin Prendergast. We're out of here. Good night. God bless.